Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Todd coming at you with another episode of Living Your Best Life. And of course, you probably already know what we do on the show, right? I'm pretty sure you do, but just in case you don't know, I'm going to tell you. We invite professionals on to talk about what they do and how what they do contributes to a healthier society, a wealthier society, just a better society in general. That's what we ultimately want. We just want to be better. All right. And today you're in for an awesome show because we have an excellent young lady that's going to be coming on. She's going to talk about nutrition, okay, and functional nutrition. This is something that is, I think, a topic that, of course, is gaining more conversation or more momentum when it comes to overall well-being. Yes, of course, we've always known about or we talked about nutrition at some level, but Drew is going to actually take us a little bit deeper, okay? Drew Mulvey, and she's out of the Connecticut area, and she is a walking encyclopedia, everyone. Just a brilliant young lady and nutritionist. So listen, everybody, you're in for a thrill, alrighty? So take out your pen and paper, okay? Write some of these things down, and also, she's here for you. So make sure that you get in contact with her. Now, before we get on to the interview, you know I got something popping off, as always. So we have the next Reset Challenge coming up, all right? The Well Beyond 50 Reset Challenge. So bottom line, if you are approaching 50, if you are 50 and above, and you want to live a healthier life, you want to feel more vibrant, you want to feel, definitely more energy and just, hey, maybe shed some weight and just be held accountable, okay? I want you to get on this challenge. But before we get on the challenge, check out some of the webinars we got coming up, okay, in the next few weeks, okay, before the challenge. So make sure that you get in on that. Alrighty, so everybody, listen, Drew Mulvey is coming to talk about nutrition and how it can improve your life on a cellular level, all right? So let's talk about it, and I'll catch you on the other side. Y'all be good. Peace. So welcome back, everyone, to Living Your Best Life. And of course, the commercial. This is how we're going to live our best life, especially after the age of 50. Get on that reset challenge, everyone, the 30-day reset challenge. Check it out. We have some webinars that are going to be popping off over the next few weeks. And I think we have a starting date sometime after July 4th. Okay, well, right after the holiday season, everybody can do what you need to do, for the 4th of July, but we want to get right into it right after the 4th. So definitely chime in and get on some of those webinars. So enough about me and enough about the Reset Challenge and all that stuff. Let's get on to the guest today, Drew Mulvey. Now, I had the opportunity, of course, meeting her a couple of weeks ago, and I was just so just in awe of her comeback story as it relates to nutrition. Of course, what we do on the show, you already know, we're out there looking for people that are out there in the trenches, helping people do just what they do with regards to living their best lives. But it's sometimes we come from it, we get to we have a theoretical approach, and then there are some people who actually live the experience of what nutrition can do in terms of improving their health. And Drew Mulvey is a walking example of how nutrition plays a role in our overall health and wellness. So Drew, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I feel really honored to be on this podcast.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your business, kind of starting out, because you have a nutrition business that's in Connecticut, and I just kind of like want everyone to kind of like know a little bit about your business starting out.
Correct, yeah. So as Todd introduced me, I am Drew Mulvey. So I call myself a vitality specialist. And people ask, like, what does that mean? Well, I have a background in integrative and functional nutrition, functional medicine. There's some life coaching in there. And then I also have a NASM. I'm a NASM certified personal trainer. So what I do is I integrate all of those things together to create tools to help entrepreneurs, to help athletes, and really anybody who's trying to take control of their health or has simply been failed by conventional medicine. So that they can actually have energy, that they can push themselves while still maintaining their well-being and really get their vitality back. Because I feel like so many people in America have lost a lot of their vitality and a lot of the connection that we used to have. So my personal business, how it came to be, my background, I've been an athlete pretty much like my whole entire life. I loved sports. I did soccer, I did softball, basketball, gymnastics, swimming. But the two of those that I really loved growing up was gymnastics and swimming. I was just like a fish. Like if we went to a hotel, there had to be a pool. I just loved to swim. And then I found diving, and that just connected the two. And so I started that at 10 years old. I just loved it. And I was an All-American in high school. I got recruited to a D1 school for college. But unfortunately, during that time, it was really 14 years old. That's when things kind of started to go haywire. And I would go to doctor after doctor and not really get any answers. Um, I really didn't have the normal energy of a 14-year-old or somebody in high school. And then finally at 20 years old, we found an alternative care place, and that's when I finally got the answers. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, chronic immune disease. I had another autoimmune disease. I had all these things going on at 20 years old. And I heard this all on my 20th birthday. They're like, "Oh, this is probably not what you want to hear on your 20th birthday." And I'm like,
Mm.
"No, it's bittersweet because I've been looking for 6 years for answers, and you finally told me that something had been off." But that really hindered my athletic career. It hindered my quality of life, and I hadn't really grasped a foundation of that alternative care to have that health last. And I was always fit, like I was always very athletic. I did eventually dive again in college, but I just didn't reach my full potential. My 20s, I still was suffering from several health conditions. And then one day I was sitting down and thinking, where do I want the path to go? And I was thinking about the alternative care routes that I had been going on and the naturopaths that I had gone to, or the um, other alternative care practitioners, and they were the ones that finally found the answers. I'm like, you know what? I feel like this is my purpose. And especially in the athletic realm, doesn't necessarily need to be in the athletic realm, but that's when I ended up getting my master's in human nutrition from University of Bridgeport. I was introduced to the functional medicine component and getting to understand what's going on a biological and a cellular level that's much deeper than just a simple blood test. And using all those different modalities, I've been able to regain an athletic career. And I actually just did a half Ironman last year. And another half Ironman is in the cards. It's 2.5 months away. It's going to be in Maine. And I attribute that all to, we sometimes wonder, why do we go through things that we did? And from what I went through, now I'm able to have all of these tools to be able to help others. So that's the passion
Wow.
behind my practice, my business, and why I am where I am today.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Amazing story. And I'm sitting here thinking a couple of things that you mentioned, because this happened to you at an earlier age in terms of your health issues.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm wondering how much, if you may or may not know the answer. I don't know if there is an answer, but
Mhm.
how much of our recovery and our comeback depends on our youth? Because if you were 40, 45, 50, do you think A, you would have had the mental capacity to make that kind of a comeback, and B, the physical capacity to make that comeback? Can we make those comebacks even at a later age in our lives?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I know that as we age, it is a little bit more difficult to recover, but kind of getting an understanding of where you are, getting your body the right nutrients, the right nutrition. It it doesn't mean that you're going to be the same as you were when you were like 20, you know.
Right, right. But
That's
you won't be in that 60.
Right, correct. But we can put together a program for you that nourishes all those different components. So the nutrition, the nutrients, the cellular level, making sure your bones are strong, integrating exercise. And we can significantly improve your quality of life so that you can recover from something like this.
Wow, wow. So the I was thinking also before we got on today, food being can food kill and also can food heal? And I think the answer is yes, to probably both of them.
Yes,
Right.
definitely.
Right. So now, and before we dive deeper into that, because your business and your approach is, like you said, very holistic, and you get down to a cellular level of things and how things are, formulating within a person's body. Can you dig a little bit deeper into that? Because that's something that we don't really get an opportunity to know about or we're not aware of, because traditional medicine doesn't really dig that deep. And it's not a criticism of traditional medicine, but we have just a basic overview of our health and wellness. And what could really be going on is probably a little bit deeper.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that you hit the mark is that conventional medicine, of course, medicine definitely has its place, and I don't want to poo-poo that at all.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, it's looking at the symptom. And I remember this to a T from my master's program. In one of my classes, there could be two people that present with the same exact symptoms, but have very different things going on in their body. And that's where understanding somebody at a cellular component really helps. We hear a lot about the gut and the gut microbiome. That's one of the things looking at what the diversity of the different bacteria in the gut microbiome, because some of them can actually produce inflammatory proteins, which could inflame the heck out of your body and be creating these symptoms. It could be creating depressive symptoms. It could be creating joint pain. So a lot of that can be linked to your gut. But then there's also something called the mitochondria. And those are basically the little powerhouses of your cells, and they create our energy molecule, ATP. So if those aren't functioning correctly, if they're not getting the right nutrients, then we need energy for pretty much everything in our body. We
Hmm.
need
Hmm.
energy to focus. We need energy for our heart to function properly. We need energy for our liver to even function properly to clear compounds out of our body effectively so they're not constantly recycling. And also, we need energy for our quality of life, because you're not really that happy when you don't have that much energy. You're just
Right.
kind of dragging yourself. So, understanding where's the missing link. I've also started to incorporate more of this where the holistic is how connected is the person? Where was this disconnect where it's with themselves that maybe it was trauma in the past, maybe it's another stressor, maybe it is certain mindsets that are limiting them from being able to carry forward because it's based on past experiences. But really getting down to that level can also very much manipulate the cellular level
Mhm.
as well. So it's like the gut brain and the brain gut connection, and then the brain body connection too. So understanding all of those different components and getting a snapshot of where you are, where your mitochondria is, where your gut is, how you're digesting things, how you're assimilating nutrients, how things are getting around your body, all, and looking at all the different systems along with what's your past, what's your story, what created these mindsets and limiting beliefs, or it could be just living on extremes. By addressing those things and providing the right nutrients, you're creating this transformation in the person where it's helping their body to recover in the manner that it needs to recover. And
Wow.
conventional medicine doesn't necessarily look
Yeah.
that deep into it.
Yeah. And I'm going to go back to your situation because we're so used to not having access to this kind of information that you're providing that
Correct.
we take it for granted on a daily basis. I think um, our overall well-being. Most of us are just trying to get through the day, on the fuel that we do provide our bodies with. And if you can kind of like take us a little bit back to when you were having your health challenges, what
Mm.
did you do? How did you overcome? I mean, if you can give some specifics without, maybe going into too much detail, but some specific protocols in terms of what you how you overcame some of your obstacles and challenges.
Yeah. Okay. So I will actually, this was a recent one. Um, so I got COVID back in, it was the 2021, 2022 time. So it was December going
Hmm.
into January. That's when the Omicron was turning into the Delta or I don't
Yeah,
remember which one it was turning
yeah.
into, but I got a nice little hybrid of it and I was out for 9 days. So after that, I definitely experienced long COVID. So it was harder for me to run. It was harder for me to breathe. And I
Hmm.
remember the day that it broke. But what COVID can do to people with past autoimmune conditions is that it can reactivate them if your body is under a certain amount of stress.
Hmm.
Come December of 2022 to January of 2023, that was the first relapse of fibromyalgia. And I felt
Wow.
like I was reliving the nightmare of when I was 20. I barely had any energy. My muscles were really sore again. I wasn't recovering from my workouts.
Hmm.
And so the tools that I had gathered from my functional medicine background, I'm like, okay, so what foods are bothering me? What things am I consuming that are inflaming my body? What types of workouts are good for me? What types of workouts might not be good for me? At
Hmm.
that time, especially with fibromyalgia, it can either be adrenal fatigue or it could be even worse, in my case, adrenal burnout, where your body's not even producing cortisol anymore. And that's when you get all that joint pain. That's when you get a low heart rate, and actually, low cortisol levels can very much impact your heart. So you really have to pay attention to that. You're not even able to kind of, I want to say this is like you're kind of feeling like you're on a cloud.
Yeah,
You can
yeah,
only go to a certain extent, and then you can't go any faster. It's like your body's
yeah.
like, nope.
Wow.
And so from there, I was also looking at what was wrong with my cells.
Hmm.
Where was the inflammation coming from? What
Hmm.
sorts of systems needed some extra nutrients? And um, so I tweaked my workouts. It was hard because I definitely had to take a step back.
Yeah, yeah,
But from all of that, so the nutrition, the nutrients, the right types of exercises, making sure that I was getting rest, taking things off of my plate, having grace for myself, all those different components, I was able to start getting out of it.
yeah.
And um, it did come back. I guess I hadn't treated it fully, but then the next year when it did come back, I had had this program already in place, and it led me to being able to do a half Ironman last
Wow,
September.
wow, wow. So are you looking out, are you looking out for like, okay, are you just so are you on like, okay, I'm always looking out for this, what's around the corner kind of thing to have a relapse? Are you dealing with that kind of a mental state? Because I dealt with COVID um also in 2023, I think.
Hmm.
And I had COVID twice. And the first go around, it during the COVID, you know, uh, I was the days I was dealing with COVID, I could feel the impact in terms of just low energy, the headache and things like that. But after about 8 or 10 days, I was fine.
Yeah.
The last time in 2023, I didn't feel any, impact of COVID during those days.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I remember going to the gym and uh, I felt good. And I normally do like some, sprints, like 50-yard sprints. And so I was doing my 50-yard sprints and my
Mhm.
heart rate would not come down.
Mm.
It was just elevated.
Hmm.
And it was like something that this is about to be 3 days after, I was cleared to go and start, to resume with life after COVID. And so, like I said, my heart rate would not come down. And so I was like wondering, okay, I'm sitting down and my heart rate is like 120, and I've been sitting here for like 10 minutes. It's like, 120. And so I wasn't quite sure what was happening. Now, weeks prior to, that whole COVID thing, days prior to COVID, I'm killing it in the gym.
Yeah.
And so everything looks fine, everything feels fine. But after, like I said, that experience, everything just kind of like went haywire.
Yeah.
And it lasted, I just probably maybe 5 or 6 months ago, I was able to kind of like, amp up the workout routines again a
Yep.
little bit more to where I can sprint, I'm sprinting again, and things like that. I love my sprints, you know. So it's weird. I don't know if COVID does something to to kind of like let us know that something is internally wrong somewhere. Or I don't know how it plays, but like I said, it just threw me for a loop because here I
Yeah.
am, thinking that you know, I'm doing well and I'm, kicking butt and boom, this happens. So that was my COVID experience.
Mm.
And um, where I was going with that, I can't quite remember, but it was just I kind of wanted to share a little bit of my struggles because I don't think, we're not perfect in this whole thing, no matter how, we can all be hit with something at any point in time.
Correct. Yeah, I know you were asking if it's always on the back of my mind if it's going to happen again, because I had learned to manage it and then I had gotten COVID. And yeah, of course, it's definitely on the back of my
Yeah.
mind. But I do have to say, like, after I had gotten COVID, this is the very first year that I did not relapse.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And
And this is
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. And you what?
So, from that program that I put together last year and
Yeah,
all of the different components, like, I
yeah.
was able to, I guess, be normal.
Right,
And
right, right.
and feel normal. Like, of course, it's in the back of my mind that if I start feeling something like, oh gosh, is it coming on again?
Yeah.
And, I do have to say to everybody, there is a level of common sense in this, and also knowing
Hmm.
yourself and knowing where your body's at, knowing where you're at. And
Yeah,
of course, if anybody overdoes it, like, your body's going to respond to you, and you need to
yeah.
kind of dial back and figure out the areas that you need to dial back. But once you start doing that, and you start understanding yourself more, understanding your nutrition, your exercise, your mindset, all of those things, it does yield results like this. And
Hmm.
now I feel like I've felt a lot better this year than I have in the previous 2 years.
Oh,
So
good, good.
it's very exciting. Yes, there can be a light at the end of the tunnel, but I mean, that was really scary. That
Yeah,
was.
of course, of course. It was scary for me. I'm like, what in the,
Yeah.
I had never experienced that. So, and I want to go back to what we spoke. I asked you about it earlier, um, with regards to our food system, uh,
Mm,
Drew. Whatever's going on with the government now in terms of, taking some of these chemicals and some of these bad things and toxicities out of our foods. I hope it does happen. But we thrive on profit, and sometimes our health and wellness is not too much considered in those profits,
yeah.
um, either at all. So, how do we get back? How do we maintain a healthy life, um, with our current as it stands now? Are we to just drastically reduce the amount the processed foods, the toxic foods? Or how do we? What's the best way to eat nowadays?
Yeah. Well, um, have to say that there has to be balance, and you have to meet yourself where you're at too. Like, if you
Yeah.
come from like a really, really processed food diet, or I shouldn't even say diet, but nutrition plan, and you're
Hmm.
trying to get to a more I guess, whole food way of eating, there's got to be steps in place, or else it's going to be from one extreme to the next.
Hmm.
So, meeting yourself where you're at and then educating the person on what works best for them, integrating more whole food dishes. I love to cook and I love to make little, I call them functional dishes. So, I try to
Uh,
make the most nutrient dense version of the most emotionally satisfying dishes. And they can taste just as good. And the thing is like we're all humans. Yes,
yeah.
we like pizza, we like burgers and
Right. Yeah.
fries and ice cream, and there's definitely a place for those things in our nutrition plan. Should it be every day? Probably not, but there's
Yeah.
a place for those things and just educating the person on I personally really have a or am a big component of like the 80/20 rule.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you do want to try to pick out the options that are going to be more nutrient dense and are going to be nourishing your body. But at the same time, you also want to be able to enjoy yourself, to have that emotional satisfaction, or else then you can do go too much to one side and that can create, unhealthy mindsets where I can even say from my background too, I did have disordered eating in my background,
Mhm.
and I was freaked out about even going out any place or having anything off plan. But you can't always control those things. So I think the best answer to that is do what is in your control to the best of your ability
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
don't let it just overtake your social calendar.
Yeah.
You want to still be able to go out and have a good time and not be fearing your food, but I think really getting educated on what food is actually doing to your body, because it's true, what processed foods do is that they're void of nutrients. So it
Hmm.
actually starts pulling nutrients from your body and putting an extra stressor on your body. So
Hmm.
even just by, what the simplest thing that I start with people?
What's that?
Just start incorporating more fruits and vegetables.
Oh yeah. Oh
Meet
yeah.
yourself where you're at. Let's see, let's start incorporating more fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's start to shift.
Shift
It's a simple
shift
move.
from shift from kind of what though? Like
If
what
they're
would you
really
term it?
heavy on
Yeah.
like the processed foods.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And lately I've been, watching some I guess you can call them doctors and people in the nutrition field and hacking, biohacking and things of that nature.
Mhm.
Um, Speaking about increasing protein,
Yeah.
uh, in in your diets, because if you think about my wife and I, we did a short presentation yesterday and we were speaking about the traditional breakfast in our country. A lot of times it can be carb heavy, and even the lunch and dinner just overall can be more so carb heavy than anything. But like you say, just adding a simple thing, a little bit more vegetable to your overall eating plan, or a little bit more fruit to your overall eating plan, while slowly, moving away from the carb heavier type of meals.
Mhm.
Because just in my thing, so do you kind of like agree with that whole um also increasing more protein, especially as we age?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Because okay, so when you hit like 60, 65, your body just can't retain muscle as well.
Right. Right.
And there's a possibility that if you're not taking care of that, there's something called sarcopenia, where
Hmm.
basically your muscles are just kind of wasting away. So if you think about it, your body's in a more stressed out state at that time. Both men and women, their hormones are changing. At that time, women are in menopause. Men, usually their testosterone levels are decreased, and testosterone is responsible for maintaining that muscle mass. For women, estrogen is responsible for maintaining that muscle mass as well. So by increasing the protein intake, that's going to help to maintain that lean body mass, which is super important for overall metabolism, for blood sugar regulation, for energy production in particular. Like doing leg workouts, if you think about it, these are your biggest muscles. Those have the most mitochondria. So that's what's going to generate the most energy. That's what's going to have the most benefit in your body, and you want to keep those.
Right.
So, for instance, there was this article speaking about like post-workout nutrition and post-workout protein consumption. And then after about an hour, sometimes 90 minutes, you need about like they say 15 to 20 grams of protein, and then adding in some carbohydrate in there. Well, in this particular study, they found that men that are over, I believe, is it 55 or 60, that they needed about double that amount to maintain a
Wow.
lean body mass. So protein is essential. And interestingly enough, when I see older individuals, they're not very protein heavy. It's more of like kind of like the carbs and the convenience food. I was a caregiver for a while.
Hmm, hmm,
And
hmm.
I did see that, and I was seeing that trend. So educating them on you getting that protein in. And the protein also helps with blood sugar regulation, which is
Yeah.
also going to help decrease the stress response in your body. So overall,
Yeah.
yes, protein is super important. And that's the next layer that I go to is how much protein are you getting? Let's hit this amount, and then we'll work on the other things.
Yeah. 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 Like I said, just watching over the, past however many years, I've been just watching and learning about the importance of protein in your diet, and over a period of time, of course, adding a little bit more. Now, the question that most people will have, and if you can answer, is how much? Because we do a little demonstration where we're talking about soft drinks, sodas and things like that, particularly the one Mountain Dew. It's in a 20-ounce bottle, and it has 76 grams of sugar. And you're talking about 19 teaspoons of sugar going into a glass, so to speak, or just in that bottle of 20 ounce. And so, who in their right mind would actually down anything with just knowing that it's like, would you add some sparkling water to a glass of 19 teaspoons of sugar and drink it? No, you probably wouldn't. But
Oh,
that's what we're doing within that Mountain Dew. So we shared that demonstration just to illustrate how much sugar we consume probably on a daily basis. So, but people want to know how much protein should we be consuming, possibly given, a person's goals and their, yeah, female or male.
so it's varying. It's
Yeah.
based on their age, based on their activity level, what type of activity are they doing? So the ISSN, so the International Society of Sports Nutrition, they recommend between 1.2 to 2.0 grams per kilogram. But you have to think of in terms of how much energy are you getting from food. So here's an interesting thing that when you are in a caloric deficit, there's something called a protein pool in your body, and it needs to be filled, or else um, it's going to start recruiting proteins from other sources, aka your muscles. So in that time, when you're in a caloric deficit, your protein intake is going to need to be a little bit higher just to maintain the lean body mass, and so that protein pool remains filled and it doesn't
Mhm.
take from your muscles. So in that instance, what the studies have shown is between about 2.3 to 3.2 grams per kilogram. Um,
Mhm.
in particular, like grams per kilogram of lean body mass that you have on you. And I know that that can be kind of like a catch-22 because you don't always know like what a person's lean body mass to adipose tissue is. Um, but if you get that in there, then it's obviously going to be based on your weight as well. For those of that are maybe in menopause, I would recommend at least 1.8 grams per kilogram, no matter what. So caloric deficit about 2.3 to 3.2 grams per kilogram. If you're younger, like younger athletes, they need about 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram. If you're in maintenance, so maintenance energy, it's about 1.6, and also maintenance and above, it's about like 1.6. So it's varying between
Hmm. Hmm.
several,
Gotcha.
it takes, you have to take into account like several different factors. And the thing
Yeah.
is too, those are based on calculations.
Yeah.
You start implementing it and then something's not working, then that's when you start to kind of play around and it becomes very unique to the individual.
Yeah. Yeah. You walk around with this information all the time, every day.
I know that was really loaded. When somebody asks, how much protein do I need? I'm like, oh, well,
But yeah, but it's very useful though. But I was just like, say, wow, she's walking around with this information in her head, just, just and that's awesome. No, that's a testament in itself, that you know your stuff. So I'm thrilled with that, and I look forward to, exploring your mind a little bit more, your business practices and everything, because like I said, that's what people want to know. They want to know, um, traditional and conventional medicine pretty much is, like you said, it just works with the symptoms, and that's pretty much that. But people want to know how to get well for them now, and these things have to be customized. And people want to know, like I said, doc, that's all good and dandy, but how do I get well? And that's where the sticking point is now. And that's what people, well, I think we're more aware now. We have so much information out here.
correct.
And that's, I think that is a good thing and a bad thing. And yeah,
Yes. It's actually created a lot of confusion around what the right nutrition plan is. And right now, there's the fad diets, there's keto, there's the carnivore, there's plant-based, there's all of these different things, and everybody's consuming all of this different knowledge and
yeah.
then trying to apply it to themselves when really, so protocols are bound to fail. Because if you try
Hmm.
to apply something that to the general population, you're not addressing the individual.
Yeah.
I have seen that certain things haven't worked for some of the people that have come to me and talked to me, and they're like, well, plant-based is supposed to be the best for me. And I'm not opposed to incorporating more plants in your nutrition plan. Like, I think that that's really important. Do you have to be 100% plant-based? I don't believe that you do. The
Yeah.
thing is, you need to find what works best for your body and
Yeah.
your bio individuality. And I've had a couple clients and I've had this conversation with them and they're like, "Oh, but sometimes my symptoms act up when I'm on plant-based or I'm hungry all the time." And I'm like, "Well, then you're probably not doing what's right for your body."
Yeah. Yeah. In other words, yeah.
Right. So where I come in is I break through all that confusion. I see what works best for you. I don't want to say it's trial and error, but I know what your protein needs are, understanding like what your carbohydrate needs are, understanding what different components that you need, and then putting that all together in something that's unique for you. And it also takes the label off. Like that's one of the things that happened to me is I got so caught up in these labels. I'm like, oh, well,
Hmm.
I'm vegan, or oh, well, I'm paleo. And then, if you go off plan, like, oh gosh, I'm not paleo anymore, you become obsessed with this label.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, we're supposed to live in the abundance of life, and we're
Yeah.
supposed to be able to have a little bit of everything in our lives unique to us. That's what makes it fun. So now, there's times where, yeah, my body does better when it's more like proteins, fruits, and vegetables, not so much the beans and the grains. But then there's other times where my body's like, I need those beans and grains. I need them
Yeah.
now. So you
Yeah.
kind of have to go with the ebbs and the flows and not be so single-minded, but be more
Yeah.
open-minded when it comes to your unique nutrition plan.
So with your labs,
Mhm.
what are you able to get in your labs and do in your labs rather? Because I was speaking with someone the other day, and they were talking about genetic testing. Then there's blood labs, and then there's nutrition labs or nutrient labs, whatever you want to. I can't recall it, but what are you able to grab in your labs?
Okay, there's like a few of them. I mean, I do have access to the genetic tests, but
Yeah.
I haven't run them yet just for specific purposes because I try to go the path of least resistance first.
Okay.
Um, but what I can see is what's going on in your gut. What's the diversity of bacteria in your gut? How are you actually digesting things? How are you breaking things down? What's the inflammation in your gut that's also being
Mhm.
carried out to your body? I think I was listening to a webinar 5 months ago, 4 months ago, and this was really, really interesting. So there are certain species in your gut that are responsible for creating something called short chain fatty acids, and that
Mhm.
basically helps to coat your intestines so that things don't escape. And now when that gets off kilter and then there's bacteria that aren't so positive, then they can create something called lipopolysaccharides, which are inflammatory proteins. And then if you don't have those short chain fatty acids that are being produced, then there's proteins plus those lipopolysaccharides that could go into your body and creating that inflammation. That can be linked to Alzheimer's, that could be linked to heart things, that could be linked to so many different, especially joint pain.
Mhm.
That's like the one line of defense that we can incorporate is kind of understanding what foods we're doing well with, what foods we're not doing well with. So there's that aspect. Seeing how your hormones are, because your hormones are going to impact, especially, well, I mean, it actually doesn't matter if like you're
Yeah.
male or female, it's still going to impact you no matter what, and it's going to impact your quality of life.
Mhm.
Testing for heavy metals, because that definitely can create symptoms. I think the buzzword now is mold,
Mhm.
and that has just been wreaking havoc in people's systems. I mean,
Wow.
the
Wow.
mold actually creates mycotoxins, which that's the inflammatory compound that they produce in your body, and that can create several things. I mean, that can be the underlying issue of an autoimmune condition, is like a mold buildup.
It's crazy.
So, I'm able to see that. Oh my gosh. I think that I covered like the main ones that I.
Yeah. It's like, what else do we need to see?
Yeah, I mean, obviously inflammation, but I'm going to be able
Yeah.
to see there's test in particular that I absolutely love. And it gives you just a metabolic snapshot of everything in your body, like how your liver is functioning, how your body is assimilating proteins and fats, and how is it producing energy, how is stress affecting different neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters, we're thinking in our mind like dopamine. So that's not just responsible for our, uh, it's usually connected with addictions, but
Mhm.
dopamine, we need dopamine. It helps with our focus, it helps with our circadian rhythm, it helps with our mood, it helps with several other things. And then when we're stressed or something's wrong with our gut, then that pathway can be altered. So being able to see like what's creating that
Mhm.
is really important. What else does this screen for? If they're, well, how your body is producing energy. So basically, it's seeing if there's any depletions of any nutrients that are causing these little blips in these pathways where they're not able to go all the way through the pathway, and repleting your body with those before it can become like an actual problem on the blood
Yeah.
test. So it's a
Right.
depletion before it becomes what's the word I'm looking for here?
Hey, you carry this information in your head.
Oh, it's
It's
coming to
like,
me.
I, it's,
Deficiency. There we go.
there we go. There we go. Yeah, I knew it was there somewhere. It had to be.
I know there was a lot of information that I was trying to bring out in that
That's
one.
fine.
And that's why I love it so much, but it's not just vitamins. It's actually looking at different compounds that are responsible for producing energy, that's responsible for keeping these neurotransmitters intact, and especially norepinephrine and epinephrine. So those are basically your adrenaline compounds, and that will give us an idea of how your adrenals are functioning. If it's
Mhm.
an adrenal fatigue, or it can be going to adrenal burnout, and then you need to support that with different nutrients and like a different plan and nutrition as well. So that one, that's the one I absolutely love.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. That is awesome. That is awesome. I can listen to you now. The question I have for you right now is when is the book coming out? because you have to get out a book. You have to.
So I do have a cookbook.
Okay.
I have a cookbook called the No Title Cookbook. So a
Hmm.
label-free approach
Okay.
to whole food cooking. Because, I
Yeah.
was saying before, like I got so caught up in labels when
Able.
we can just have whatever if our body's going to tell us if it doesn't like something.
Over time or immediate?
Well, it could be an acute response or it could be, in 1 day or 2 days, but
Hmm.
it's going to do a good job at telling us if it doesn't do well. So putting yourself under an umbrella of like, I can just eat paleo because I have inflammatory conditions, or I can just eat keto because I have this, then that takes away other foods that you could potentially be having that might not be on that plan, but you don't have issues with it.
Yeah. 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 Gotcha.
Yeah, but
Supplementation. Where does supplementation fall in your world?
I do use that a lot. Like I try not to go like overboard with things, but honestly,
Hmm.
it depends on the case that's being presented to me. When
Yeah.
there's a really clinical case, then yes, there is going to have to be maybe a bit longer of a supplement plan, but you have to meet the person where they're at. You don't want to always overwhelm them. I know myself, like being an athlete, I'm like, all right, tell me what to do and I'm going to do it. And that did help me with
Yeah.
the right nutrient and supplement plan. So I'm a big advocate of supplements, but I think sometimes they're being just overused a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, I do too, and especially when it's not warranted. Just to take a supplement, just to take a supplement, I think sometimes can be, unnecessary. I don't know
Oh,
how,
yeah.
I don't know how dangerous it is, but I just, I'm going to go with only just unnecessary. So I do believe in targeted and customized, to that degree. So what's in store for you in the next 2 to 5, because like I said, I love your approach to this whole thing, in what you do. We need as much help as we can get, but we need more of down to earth people like yourself, and people that, like I said, have walked in your footsteps, and you've been on that other side of like, what in the world has happened to my health coming, after athletic, uh, you know, journey in your life, and then boom, this thing blows up. And so you have walked in the shoes or in the footsteps of someone that's athletic, and then, like I said, your whole system kind of blew up, but you were able to come back. So we need individuals, that are coming from an experiential perspective versus just a theoretical. So what's in the future for you guys at Redeeming Life Nutrition?
Ooh. Well, I am in the process of writing a book. I'm just trying to figure out. So my thing is I love to research and I'm always learning new things and I'm like, "Oh, well, I got to put this in there, but then I have that and I have this," and I realize like I could definitely put them in different
Yeah.
books, but um it will be done. It
Okay,
will be
good.
done
Good.
eventually. It's in the works. Um I mean, I'm looking potentially into different certifications. I'll be doing another half Ironman in a couple of
Yeah.
months, which I'm
Yeah.
really excited about. And I'd really like this to get out to people so that they can get their health back. I'd really like to expand this business and not only to athletes, but this program can be used for autoimmune conditions. I've seen it used. It's been actually really helping with people with eating disorders because it gets down to the heart of the matter and it
Yeah.
builds up from that. And then you're able to help them supplementally with nutrients, with nutrition, but more importantly, the relationship with themselves. And that goes with anybody.
Yeah.
Also, entrepreneurs and athletes, we tend to go way above our limits and understanding how we can support our body during that time, or maybe how we can dial back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I definitely would. I mean, I would. Do you know what one of my goals is?
What's that?
To do a TED Talk.
Oh my God. You would be awesome doing a TED Talk. If I knew Ted right now, I'd call him up and say, listen, you've got to get Drew on this thing. But yeah, you would be awesome doing a TED Talk. Have you explored the how-tos on how to do a TED Talk?
No,
Okay.
haven't.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
probably should, but that's been on the back of my mind because there's so many different things and I've really seen the value. I really think the past, so as an entrepreneur and as a practitioner, it's not you just evolving as a business, but it comes from you evolving as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. It does.
And I feel like I have changed so much over this past year, and I've really seen the value of connection
Hmm.
and the value of being so client-centered, meeting them where they're at, but also having that component of that connection, having that life coaching component, having that I should say personal connection with that person
Hmm.
is what is just breaking chains in people's lives. It's not just another meal plan that I'm giving out to somebody. It's
Yeah.
just another supplement plan. You have to go into the mindset, you have to go into the background of the person, you have to go into the heart. And then once you start chiseling away at those, then that's where they start blossoming.
And that's why I do what I do. I'll be honest with you, Drew. A lot of my clients, they've come to me and I know more about them than probably most of their closer friends know. I've had clients training with me while crying, while releasing some of the stress in their lives. And then they get to work out and, like I said, they're working out, they're training, and they're crying because they're dealing with so much other stuff.
Yeah.
And, it's like, just let it out. This is the place where we can just let go. And they love that. And so we'll have a conversation with time, at times, just to say, okay, like what's going on and how do we approach our workout today? Because I want to make sure that I am in tune with them. And like you said, meeting them where they are, because to have someone just drilling, going, it can be detrimental. It can actually be counterproductive. And
Correct.
so we want to know where you are in your life. What's the stress level like? Because that matters. What are all those things like? So I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. About your approach, like you say, just meeting them where they are. And like I said, I'm so proud of you. You making your journey from where you were years ago in your twenties to where you are now and where you're going. And anything that I can do to help, like I said, now I'm like, okay, how do we get her on TED Talk? And and because I think the world is waiting for you to show up. So. But thank you so much for hanging out with me for a few minutes today. I truly, truly enjoyed the conversation. I look forward to an ongoing conversation because we've just touched I think some of the, surface because I want to talk about women's health
Mhm.
because that's another thing that, I work with a lot of women and these are things that, I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily have the answers for, but I want to have the resources and know the people that can provide those types of answers for them. So, like I said, this is just, I hope, a beginning of a friendship, a relationship, and just kind of like grow from there.
Definitely.
Good
I
deal.
like the
Good
sound
deal.
of that, Todd.
Awesome. Awesome. So once again, thanks so much for hanging out. Tell everyone, like, I know you got your QR code, but tell everyone where they can find you. So they can hear your voice say it.
Okay. Well, you can find me. I have my website, Redeeming Life Nutrition, and it's just been updated, which I'm very excited about. And it kind of goes with the evolution of how I've been evolving as a practitioner. I'm also on Instagram as Warrior Athlete Nutritionist. Yes, warrior.athlete.nutritionist. I do actually have a trademark under Redeeming Life Nutrition called Warrior Athlete Nutrition. Again, very close to my heart. It kind of goes with the comeback story. I do have a YouTube channel as well, Redeeming Life Nutrition, where I cover multiple different topics from female hormone health to fueling around training to best foods for athletic performance or even autoimmunity. There's a wide variety of information there for you, so definitely check that out. And I think those are my main social media pages. So,
Awesome. Well, I look forward to learning more about, from you, Drew. I will say that. But once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Okay.
hey, thank you so much for having me, Todd.
Awesome. Awesome. So everybody, listen, go find her. All right. Go find her. And I was just like, I'm sitting here, I'm like writing things down, and I don't normally do that, because I'm like, I got to find out, I just want to make sure I ask, go back to that. This woman is a walking encyclopedia of how to live our best lives when it comes to health and wellness and nutrition. So she's one, like I said earlier, that's out there in the trenches helping people do just that. So you make sure that you go out there and find her at her location, at her website that's right down here below us. So everybody, once again, thank you so much for hanging out with us on Living Your Best Life. Todd and Drew, we're signing off for today. Catch you next time. Y'all be good. Peace.
All right, take care, everybody.